everybody talks about Mughal period and all that. मराठास का कंट्रीब्यूशन ट्रेड में उसकी बात तो कोई करता ही नहीं. How was he protecting our own traders, our exporters? Because when you're getting things from like today also, trade is protected.
Taxes used to be collected for every animal passing the pass. Ghat Pandey or Pansare used to collect.
Correct.
For every animal passing, for every cart passing. So the
जन सुनवाई चलती थी.
Jan Sunbai hoti. And officials were absolutely afraid that if I do not follow the orders, the report goes straight back to him.
Welcome, General Ranade, to our exclusive podcast on Shivaji as an administrator.
Thank you, Ravi.
Okay, very brief introduction about General Ranade. In fact, if I start telling about him, it will take almost half an hour. So, the small introduction about him is he is an alumni of National Defence Academy, Khadagwasla, and retired as Major General, IG Ops of prestigious NSG. Thereafter, he served as Director, Army Institute of Management, Kolkata for 2 years. And during one of the talks, walk and talk, General Ranade mentioned to me that actually this was during Chhava movie release. We were talking something about the movie and then drifted to Shivaji, and he told me something very interesting, which we hardly know. Most of the people know as Shivaji as a military leader, great warrior, and all that. But his administrative acumen was superb. So we decided why not to share it with our viewers. So, General Rande, please carry on.
What you said, Ravi, was absolutely right. Shivaji is, of course, known for his guerrilla tactics, the way he fought the Mughals, the Adil Shahi. He also had another streak in him to develop and create a kingdom for himself, Swaraja, on the lines of Ram Rajya. And he realized military is one part. Having a satisfied, happy population is a very, very important part. And he started that I must have my population a happy, contented. And for that, it required governance. And it was a side known but less advertised, as I will use that word, less advertised for him. He is known for his military acumen, yes, but his administrative expertise and prowess was awesome and eye-opener, I must say so.
That's right. In fact, that was the time when farmers were the mainstay of any kingdom. A lot of revenue used to come from farmers. Then trade and commerce was another one. And Shivaji actually excelled in all the fields. So can we start with his whatever he did for agriculture, for the farmers?
Yeah, you're right. The economy at that point of time was agri-based economy. Generally, India has been known as an agri-based economy and nothing very different. That was also basically the farmer produce was the ultimate. He realized that, and he realized that he must ensure to keep the interests of the farmers safe. And how would he do it? He had to implement land reforms. He documented and structured instructions, orders were given for land reforms, which was unheard of during those times. So he ensured that the farmers' land and the taxation systems are so clear, so transparent that he is happy and he gets his revenue from them in a happy state. So it's a win-win situation in case he could keep the farmers happy.
कैन यू एक्सप्लेन व्हाट वाज द सिस्टम, और जो ज़मीन को नापने का तरीका उस समय क्या था? जैसे हमारे यहाँ भी हम लोग जानते हैं एकड़, बीघा वगैरह होता है, बिना, क्योंकि ज़मीन कितनी है उसको जाने बगैर तो कोई भी रेवेन्यू नहीं डिसाइड कर सकता है.
Absolutely. The land has got to be accounted for. So he started with basics. How do I account for a land? So when going for a land accounts, he picked up the threads from something which was done during Qutub Shahi and Adil Shahis, and he had a measuring stick called Kathi, which at a later point of time was famous as Shiv Kathi.
Shiv.
And that Shiv Kathi was the measurement tool.
Basically
with
ये unit
to
of
measure
measurement
the
thing.
land.
हाँ.
And then he used to measure the land, and what you rightly said, that used to be like Kathi, it will also be called Tasu, it is also called Bigha or Chawar. Now these were the units of measurement prevalent at those point of time.
Okay, but then how would one decide that 10 bighas of land, so much of revenue will be given to the kingdom, or
Absolutely
whichever?
right. Now looking at the Deccan or the Maratha land, you will find mountainous land, you will find land adjoining the mountain rocks, the land next to the riverfront, land next to the sea. So what he did was he categorized each land. He categorized a coastal land, a mountainous land, a stony land, a rocky land, and evidently these lands will have a different capacity and capability to produce.
कुछ
Now,
नाम रखा होगा
so
उन्होंने इनका?
some names which are very, very prevalent, like Rajpal was a bush land, Kharwat was a coastal land, Khari was a bay area, Bawal was a mountainous land, Khuri was a stony land, Turvate means a land growing legumes and greens. So such names were given, and each category of land was given a capability that they are expected to produce this much. Now that capability was converted into the tax as to this land will give so much of tax. Now it was not like one size fits all. So every categorized land had a different rate of revenue, which was decided commonly with the farmer and the officials of Shivaji, so that nobody is put at a great disadvantage. So that's how the category was.
It was all laid down properly.
It was laid down, instructions were given, and it was open for all to ask and question.
लेकिन ये जो रेवेन्यू एक बार फिक्स कर दिया, तो जो बीच बीच में जो है जो प्राकृतिक आपदाएं आती हैं, कभी सूखा पड़ गया, कभी ओले बारिश, कुछ भी, तो उनका क्या इलाज था?
He probably thought of all these things when he documented all these instructions. So firstly he documented what is the type of a land, he categorized that land. Then he calculated the tax or the revenue which will come out of the land based on the produce which the farmer is doing. And then he instituted a system of assessing the produce when an official goes for collection of the taxes at the end of after the harvesting season, when the tax or the revenue is to be collected. So that is a time they assess as to what should be the produce. Was there any natural calamity? Was there a drought? Were there floods? What was the damage by floods? What was the damage by drought? Was the water available or not? Now all these factors were taken into account to assess the revenue to be paid by the farmers. The farmers were not overly penalized just because he has been given a fixed revenue, irrespective of the conditions, he has to pay that.
तो कहने का मतलब है कि ये सब चीज़ें वो अपने एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में कैटर करते थे और फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी थी.
Yes, the officials were told. So first and foremost, that officials were informed to they go and ask the farmers. The official will personally go and collect the revenue from each of the villages. Then all these issues were discussed. In case officials feel that there is a requirement of a waiver, then that recommendations are sent to Shivaji himself, and if he is convinced, then a suitable waiver, either the tax holiday or reduced tax, was instituted and given to that farmer, so that farmer is not overly penalized.
तो उनके किंगडम में और जहाँ जहाँ उनका रूल था, क्या फार्मर्स को कोई फैसिलिटी जो है मिलती थी, जैसे इरिगेशन है, फाइनेंस है, और भी चीज़ों का, इस तरह की चीज़ें जो है उन्होंने उसका प्रोविजन किया?
When the agri orders were made, the first and foremost orders was the land categorization that we spoken of, then instructions for the officials and how to calculate tax, then there were instructions for waivers in case of a natural calamity. Then of course then the problem came, there were not enough money with the farmers, so they tend to seek loans. Now loans were sought from the sahukars, that is generally what happens in our villages. And sahukars have got their own way of calculation and own way of getting the loans back. We know it, will not go into it, and the things were not too different at that point of time. So he instituted a methodology of soft loans, and soft loans with a difference. I'll call you
agri loan.
Agri loans there, so agri loans with a difference. So he instituted that loans will be given in kind. Now this was something first time which the villagers have heard. Kind means he would probably give loan of bullocks, the cows, the cart, the instruments, implements for him to do farming, so that he doesn't have to spend money for them.
Correct.
And at the end of the season, harvest season, all these instruments, the oxes, the cows and the carts which are given are taken back by the state and kept in a warehouse to be used next year or whenever the need required. So what has happened? The loan was given, there is no cash transaction, it is kind. The farmer doesn't have to spend for all these instruments and implements which he would require every year. He just spends it for his seeds, grows the product and gives. And one more instructions, I will continue with it, was the revenue which was collected was decided in two heads. Again, cash and kind. If somebody can give it in cash, well and good. If somebody cannot give it in cash, he had a leeway of give it in kind. Now that kind means the produce, the grains used to be collected and stored in something called like what we store our grains in those FCI godowns and warehouses. So that grain gets stored there, and that grain, the state has got power to use it during campaigns or drought or high price seasons when they can take it out like a fair price ration shops. They can sell it back to the villagers or use it in campaigns or may give it as a free largesse during the acute natural calamity. So now that grain which is collected as tax is used back and given back to the population from which they have collected it. So he had that kind of a system going on.
Can you tell me, जो लोग ये टैक्स, एग्री टैक्स वगैरह कलेक्ट करते थे, वो कौन कौन लोग होते थे, किस लेवल पे, कैसे, मतलब वो जो चेन ऑफ कलेक्शन वो कैसे होता था?
The tax officials or the tax, there used to be a tax commissioner sort of thing in his council of ministers at the state level. Now that state level commissioner used to then have his deputies who would be going into all the villages and collecting the tax.
उनका नाम कोई?
So the Pansare used to be the name who used to collect the tax, or used as the chief tax official was called Pansare, and he had junior officials who used to keep collecting taxes, and they were under him, and he was of course directly under Shivaji.
तो इनके एग्री रिफॉर्म में और इनके जो मेथोडोलॉजी थी, इसके बारे में और कुछ ऐड करेंगे या जो है हम अगले ट्रेड पर चलते हैं इनके?
See, we have to understand as to we have gone into this system of administration, like we've just talked of land. We forget one thing as to what prompted him to lay down all these things. What prompted Shivaji to start looking at good governance as the main turning point for his Swaraja, the kingdom? When he was in Pune Jagir, when he was meeting the people, understanding the problems, the grassroots problems, he realized there was a plague called Watandari system.
Okay.
Now, Watandari is local chieftains who had few villages under their command. Some were big, some were small, but they were generations after generations ruling over those few villages. And they had become independent by themselves. They had their own writ in those villages. They used to collect taxes, the law, everything they used to control, and
I believe they were very ruthless also.
and ruthless cruelty, because they have to extricate everything from the population. There was no welfare, there was no transparency, there were no orders, it's all arbitrary. And these are the chieftains who grew in size and stature. They were all dotted all over the place.
So what happened to them?
Watandari system was the one which was a plague. And the sultans like Adil Shahi or Qutub Shahi, instead of dealing directly with the population, they used to deal with these chieftains, the Watandars. And they say, you pay us, because the Adil Shahi or Sultan's army was so big, so they could probably never match with them militarily. So they used to surrender their allegiance with them, and they say, okay, we will give you so much of tax. Sultan is happy because he is getting a tax. The Watandar is happy because he collects what kind of tax that Sultan is not aware. So he collects arbitrary tax, gives some share, and keeps the major share with him, and he starts ruling. But who is the sufferer? The people who are sufferer. There was no waiver for calamities, there was no waiver for the type of land. The tax used to be decided one size fits all. Whether it's a stony land or an agricultural land, everybody has to pay the same tax. The sufferer was the man, the villager. This is what prompted him that if and when that Swaraja comes, I will ensure that there is a transparency and there is a welfare for the people. That was the start point of all the administrative forays which he did for the good governance for his kingdom.
So I can very safely say that it was a model welfare state as far as Shivaji's kingdom was concerned.
Yes, model
Modern
welfare,
days.
yes, he started, that was his strength.
Yes.
The strength, his strength lies in the integrity and the loyalty of his people. And how did he get that loyalty and integrity of the people? By providing them a transparent and a good governance. And he did it, and he documented these things.
That's right. And another thing, like सभी लोग बात करते हैं कि औरंगजेब के टाइम में, मुगल के टाइम तक हमारा जो ट्रेड था वो चाइना के साथ नेक टू नेक था. बहुत अच्छा ट्रेड हम करते थे, सारी दुनिया में हमारा हमारी चीज़ें जाती थी. तो वी हैड वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग ट्रेड. एवरीबडी टॉक्स अबाउट मुगल पीरियड एंड ऑल दैट. मराठास का कंट्रीब्यूशन ट्रेड में, उसकी बात तो कोई करता ही नहीं है. ठीक है, somehow I have missed that. ठीक है,
What you say is absolutely right. Unfortunately, the Shivaji, what we call him, the start point of the Maratha kingdom, which rose to the greater heights till 1818. Now we are talking a period of about 200 years. So he was the start point. When they fought the British, the second Anglo-British war in 1818, when actually then that is the time when Britishers took control over complete India. Mughals,
and even
Mughals were not there at all.
And even our trade.
Yeah, and Mughals were not there. Trade was, he realized that to develop a kingdom, he has to have funds. Simple. You have to have money to have a kingdom. From where the money comes? Money would come from the revenue, which we just talked of. Money would come from trade. He realized the importance of the trade. Because as he expanded, his kingdom boundaries touched the coast. And that is where he came in touch with the foreign traders who were already dotting the Konkan, Maratha, Goa, Karnataka coastline.
तो कहाँ से हमारा ट्रेड
The trade line started from Surat. Surat was the trade hub of the Mughals. Then we come down to Mumbai, Vengurla, Kalyan, Bhiwandi, Goa, Karwar, right down to complete Konkan coast. These were the hubs, ports, which were small ports were developed, where the foreign traders used to come and do their trading.
So any kind of facility Shivaji provided to the foreign traders and our own traders?
Yeah, you'll be actually surprised. I was going through this, and on my in the quest of writing this chapter for the book, which is of course come out shortly. He was interested in protecting this trade, and he ensured that there is some kind of a system, there is some kind of orders, and a laid out setup is made. Now each port, if you look at the trade, how does the trade takes place? The trade takes place as a place where two types of traders work. They export, they import, buy and sell their goods. Then the goods are collected. The collected goods are put on some kind of a transport system. It goes through a well-defined route, goes into the hinterland, goes into the villages. From villages, it is then sold to the common consumer. Now if this is the trade system, so the start point used to be the ports, where the international trade with international traders and domestic trade with the domestic traders. Now domestic traders were the traders from Adil Shahi, traders from Qutub Shahi, traders from Marathas, traders of Mughals. Now these were all traders were the native, homegrown traders. And Britishers were there, Dutch was there, French were there, Portuguese were there. So these were the foreign traders. So they had made hubs at these points. That is the start point of the trade.
You mean to say SEZs?
Something, but very right. You actually took words out of my mouth. Today what we are developing SEZs. I was aghast to read. That concept was there with him. He developed something called SEZs. And those SEZs are the hub of the multifarious activities. You will find skilled workers, non-skilled workers, artisans, the traders, eateries, everything was there. And today an SEZ is next to a port. Like Mundra port today in Gujarat has got an SEZ also and has got a port also. So port comes, the goods are there, SEZ is there, where the tradings take place, the stocking and the further transportation back in the hinterland. Every SEZ today there is an officer appointed developmental commissioner. Well, correct. Shivaji also had an SEZ and a developmental commissioner called Bidwai.
Okay.
And he used to assist a senior officer called Mahajan. Now, Bidwai, you will be surprised, had the complete records of who is trading, what is being traded, what volumes are being traded, when the trade takes place, how the trading is moving back into the hinterland. He had the know-how, he had the pulse of the trading, was Bidwai and Mahajan. So he had that kind of trade. One more issue which you talked of, the facilities of Shivaji made naval bases.
Yes, of course. I was coming to that because everybody knows about Shivaji's navy. But what kind of merchant ships and...
Naval bases, everybody thought that Shivaji is building merchant shipping. But later on, that's a different chapter or story, where he weaponized those merchant ships to battleships. We will talk about that later.
Yes.
But merchant ships means Shivaji had his merchant shipping, international shipping to the Middle East, the Muscat, Bahrain. His ships used to regularly go there. And these naval bases which he made had probably had two tasks. One was, of course, the military task of Navy, and one was to provide protection to these SEZs or hub, or what we call pate. In Marathi, pate is a marketplace.
Okay.
So when they developed these marketplaces, so protection was also provided, so that traders are not disturbed by the looting parties or the enemy coming in. You got to understand how Shivaji gave an importance to the trader to protect him. So that was the facility of SEZ which he developed, sort of SEZ at the start point.
Now, see, goods have arrived at the port. Okay. Similarly, from hinterland, a lot of handicraft and other items, whatever could have been that time exported, used to go to those ports for export. So you require transport, require routes. So how was he actually protecting, regulating these routes? Some control must have been there.
Yeah, see, when I said this sequence of when the goods have now come in, trading has taken place, now goods have to go back. Now at that point of time, there were no aircrafts, there were no railways, or the goods used to be transported primarily on two, that is the bullock carts, and at times horses. Now, if you look at the geography, the majority of the trade, the bulk of the trading used to take place in the coastal areas. And hinterland was east of the Western Ghats.
Correct.
Now that means they have to cross the
choke points.
Choke points. They have to cross the choke points, that is the passes. Now passes were all along the Western Ghats, right from Konkan right down to Karwar, Goa. So the routes were not like highways or national highways the way we have today. They were all beaten tracks where bullock carts can go. What he did was, he nominated these roads, that these roads will be used by these traders and their trading columns. Now each trading column at times used to be 10 to 12,000 bullock carts going. So it will be slow moving column of trade going through these well defined tracks, identified tracks and nominated. So traders were told that you will go by this. Where today if you look at it, we talk of freight corridors. Exclusively for freight to move, it doesn't disturb the passenger trains. It has got an exclusive movement. That is what he instituted by having something called freight corridors. The trade will only move on these tracks, and so that he can monitor the movement of these.
And protect.
So there is an organization. He created an organization.
That's what I was.
Each of the passes.
Yes.
Now each of the passes, or maybe one pass or two passes, were under an official called Ghat Pandey.
Oh, that's a surname?
Yeah, that's a surname. Yeah. Now each of the officials were called, Ghat Pandey was the one who used to, the commander of the post. So he monitors the movement of this. Now depending on the size of the road or the freight, he could have one pass under him, he could have two passes under him. That depended, and it was flexible.
He was providing the safe passes.
Safe passes. He was the chief, you can say chief freight corridor officer, you can put it that appointment.
Okay.
Now he was assisted by two persons. One was Dange and one was Patki.
Okay.
Again surnames. Today we got. Now these were the two officers who were assisting him in movement of these. Now the movement was generally during night time or daytime and fraught with dangers. Now there used to be what we in army would be very close with, a QRT, a quick reaction team,
Okay.
or a mobile reserve,
Okay.
who used to be on the horses to ensure that these trading columns are protected.
Safe.
And that is what was called Pathakdar.
Okay.
Pathakdar was an officer with armed column with him who used to protect these.
I am reminded of my days in Somalia when we used to do the The convoy protection and the road clearance used to happen before it moves. And,
We all did it in the valley when we were protected, when we were
Yeah,
doing
there
all
also.
QRTs.
Yes.
Now the distance from the ports to the destination, that is the villages, it was not a turnaround time, what we would call is not one day. So it used to take number of days. Now if you imagine 10,000-12,000 bullock carts going,
Yes.
so they probably have to stay a night somewhere. So there were camping grounds nominated for such column to have a night halt, which was protected. Night staying arrangements were there. Food for men, food for animals was catered for in those camping grounds. So they come, stay overnight or 2 days, 3 days, whatever they want to stay, and then they proceed ahead and reach their destination. That is the villages. So he had this, the organization, we talked of the entry point, the route, and come to the destination, that is the village.
Okay.
In village, if you look at it again, now the village he had very clearly demarcated. The living part was one, the marketplace was one. The village as such, well, I've now give you the names of the appointment. Again, you will say
Yes.
those were very known figures. Patil, Kulkarni, Deshmukh, Deshpande. Now these were the appointments who were looking after the village as such. But who was looking after the marketplace? The marketplace was looked after by Bidwai, again, Shete, Mahajan, and Pansare. Pansare used to be the one who used to collect money.
Base level.
Base level.
Okay.
Bidwai and Mahajan, they used to be managing the trade, managing the distribution of the goods which are coming there. So this system was there, and all under the village chief, the Patil or a Deshmukh. Now, Deshmukh used to be the controller of 4-5 villages. Patil used to be controlling that village. Shete Mahajan used to control the Pet. Now Pet is something which we've heard.
Yes.
Ravivar Pet, Somvar Pet. Now those are Pet are the marketplaces where the market assembles on a Sunday or a Monday.
Whatever.
So that is how the days. And if you go to Pune today, you will find all 7 days in a week.
Correct.
They are dotted all over the Pune city. Yeah, exactly. So that is how he had this trade, and the best part was he had nominated these officials, and all these officials were responsible to the taxation commissioner at state, that is with him. And he used to be giving whatever he has to report to Shivaji. So you can see he ensured that the trade was not disturbed during any campaigns or during any natural calamities. That was the importance he gave. Why? Because the people must have the goods available to them delivered directly to their doorsteps. That was an importance which he gave to the trade. Less known, but then yes, he had the system in place.
Fantastic. And anything else to be added on trade part, or we move on?
Yeah, trade, of course, the destination we talked of the one more thing which he used to do it, and he actually followed it with clear instructions to his army, was, now loot was part of the military campaigns. Well, Shivaji was no different. He also used to do it. When he went to the famous, the Surat loot. Now Surat was the, what you call the base financial hub of the Mughal Empire.
Correct.
Today, like Mumbai is the financial hub of the India, Surat was a financial hub for Mughal Empire, and he raided it. But he was a man of principles. He went there, he camped outside, he sent a message to the Mughal Subedar who was there, and the 3 richest merchants: pay me this much, I will leave you and I will walk back. You don't pay me, then I will collect it in my way.
Correct.
So his orders were very clear, and he used to give them time to collect the ransom. If they give it, it's okay. If not, then he used to get inside. But when he used to get inside, there used to be a difference. One, no religious place will be touched. No religious man will be touched. No woman, no children, no old man will be touched. And his instructions used to be followed to the letter and spirit.
I know he was very strict on these issues, and
Very,
in
very
fact, one of the strictest king of his time on these issues. Otherwise, loot was very common.
In fact, it has come to the light that when he went to Surat, there was a priest and he said, Ki, this is a church and there are certain old people and women inside. So I would request, for 6 days he was in Surat, that church was not touched. There was a Dutch gentleman who was dressed in the robes of priest. The Maratha soldiers did not even touch him because he was looking like a priest. Probably he was not, but then that's the strictness of the orders, and the best part is his troops followed it.
Yes.
So he not only protected his own traders, he ensured that there is no ransacking is done when this. Of course, if it is inevitable and somebody does treachery, well then the soldiers at that point of time used to go in again.
In fact, same thing was like his orders were for the farmers also, like no destroying of fields. Okay, that was there. Not that I'm aware.
Absolutely.
But now let's move on to his finances. Like how he managed the finances of his kingdom.
Well, when we talk of revenue, when we talk of trade, so the money definitely follows in.
Yes.
And if the money is not there, well, there is no trade or there is no farming.
Correct.
During the era between 1664 to 1667, now that is the period where Shivaji issued one of the earliest silver coins.
Okay.
He issued silver coins, he also issued some gold coins also. Now those were called hone. Hone was a very popular and a prevalent currency.
How do you spell it?
Hon, hone. Hone was the popular currency at that point of time, and then he also issued few copper coins which were called shivrai.
Shivrai. That I've heard. But
That shivrai was the coin which he issued, which was generally about 3/4 of a tola. Now that was the weight used. Now people used to trade in them. Now there were few other currencies or the coins, I'll not call currency, the coins were in vogue. Mughals had their own type of system of coins, like I'll give you an example. The Mughals had rupiah, adheli,
Ana
pauli, ana, paisa, arda paisa, don paisa, char paisa. Those were the Mughals' denomination of the coins. What he had was something called hone, which was a very popular currency. There was also pratap, there was dhaval, there was rupee,
okay.
there was mohra, then suvarna niksha and rajat niksha. No,
Okay.
and lari. Now lari was one type of a currency, a coin, which was more traded in the southern part of the Deccan, that is in the southern kingdoms, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, that area. Lari was more prevalent. Hone was more prevalent here. Now actually the question which came to my mind as to why then so many currencies, why there so many coins?
Exactly. And how do you trade?
Exactly.
Value
So
of the-
value that today like a dollar is so and so, we keep seeing the dollar every day in the morning, whether the dollar has gone up or down. Now that time today we have fixed international boundaries. International boundary changes, the governance changes, the currency changes. We are talking on currency, the currency changes. Here the boundaries were fluid.
Yeah.
Today this particular fort is with me, tomorrow is with Adil Shahi, day after tomorrow I win it back, it comes back to me. But the control of the area is with the king. Could be Mughals, could be Adil Shahi, could be Marathas. But the man, the farmer and the currency and the trade remains the same because he is the source. So he can't say that today I am with Marathas, I will deal in hone. Tomorrow Marathas lose this area and it goes to Adil Shahi, so I will deal in Adheli.
And the guy who is having this currency, earlier currency,
It goes. So
that's not.
So Because of this fluid borders, all currencies were considered to be legal tenders, and people used to trade in those many currencies. So though that currency was there. Now comes a very interesting part. Gold. Today gold fluctuates.
Correct.
It was there also. It was nothing. And at that point of time, gold used to be say about 10 or 11 rupees a tola. Today gold is,
Yes.
we are not even
Lakh.
thinking of
Lakh plus.
Yeah, lakh plus. So that was also. Then came the traders, the foreign traders. Now they had a problem of legal tender. Their tender was their currency, which was not acceptable, or they had to convert. Now the conversion tables which you asked about,
Yes.
no, historians and academicians have studied the available documents, and they have their own perception of the conversion tables, but were there, conversion tables were available as to how much a hone will be, how much a lari would be, how much adeli will be, how much 4 paisa of Mughal would be equivalent to how many hones here, and at times they talk of rupees.
I'll just interject. You see, this trading has been going on since ages. We had trade with Romans. So the exchange of currency or value of gold and all those things were, as far as I understand, was decided by the traders. Traders of that side, traders of this side, they will decide. But here in this case, what I understand is that Shivaji had laid down things. So it was not left to the traders to be.
No, Shivaji had documented these are the
Yes.
conversion tables and this is only that will happen. It was not left to the traders to
Yes.
do any kind of fluctuation of prices or anything. And he was very, very strict. He understood this economics of the currency. In fact, since you are at this subject, during his coronation in 1674, the invites had gone to, of course, everybody, so as the foreign traders. Henry Oxenden of English from Surat, he was invited and he came to Raigad to attend the coronation ceremony, and it was a dual aim of visiting the fort. One was to attend the coronation ceremony, and second one was on the invite of Shivaji. He had come to sign a treaty with the Marathas.
Trade treaty basically.
Treaty for trade, treaty for operating, and primarily trade, because they were supposed to be traders.
Yeah.
He had very, very surreptitiously added a clause that the English currency to be accepted as legal tender for the trade in Maratha kingdom. When Shivaji saw it, he realized that the English coin was very elegantly made and probably not as crude as the Indian coins or the silver coins or the gold coins. So he felt that this would be an attractive item and attractive legal tender which will kill my currency. And they may, my people may not have that strength, financial strength, to get this currency, and tomorrow they will start controlling the prices and controlling the trade if this was given. He very promptly struck it down.
Fantastic. Now, related to this only, how was he protecting our own traders, our exporters? Because when you're getting things for, like today also, trade is protected. So you have to protect your domestic traders.
Very,
So how was that
interesting
being done?
question. In fact, there was a case, like, let's go back to the start point. When the trade was there with the foreign traders, he used to monitor the prices. Now, something like today we keep on hearing minimum support price, the MSP.
Yeah.
He had laid down the MSP or the prices for all the commodities
The MS. That's interesting. Yes.
to ensure that his own native traders are not harmed and their product also is sellable.
Yes.
One day he gets a report that nobody is buying Maratha salt. So he said, why? because the Portuguese were selling the salt at a lesser price than Maratha salt.
Oh,
So everybody was running after Portuguese salt. So what he did, he told this Bidwai to levy taxes on Portuguese salt,
Yes.
so that it goes higher than the Maratha salt. So he had to protect his own traders' own goods.
these are very interesting aspects actually.
He kept the market fluctuation, market prices in mind, and used to monitor it. He used to protect his traders.
That's great. Now let's come to the taxation in his kingdom.
Taxation, of course, these two standard
How
taxes.
how was it collected and what kind of taxes he levied? किस पर क्या tax क्या लगता था मतलब basically?
Taxes primarily, very famously, was a chauthai.
Okay.
Chauthai, as the word would malik, it is
25%.
25%. But if when the calculation comes, at times it generally does not come to 25%. In ranges anything between from 10 to 25%, or may actually go up.
Very.
So there is something, and something called Sardeshmukhi.
Oh.
So there were two types of taxes, chauthai and
Don't tell me that Sir Deshmukh used to collect.
Yes, exactly. Probably.
Another-
Probably, yes.
Yes.
The Sardeshmukh used to collect
Yes.
it, and probably the name still continues.
Correct.
So Sardeshmukhi was also a tax. Now, his kingdom had one unique thing for taxation. Of course, we talked of revenue, we talked of the taxes. The taxes now, how the taxes? The taxes used to be collected for every animal passing the pass. The Ghat Pandey or Pansare used to collect
Correct.
for every animal passing, for every cart passing. So the taxes were placed. But the very important part of the taxation system was, it was based on the commodity you're trading, or the animal, or the cart, or the bullock cart, or whatever the produces. It was not religious based.
Okay.
Everybody had same set of rules, whether he belongs to any religion, which was contrary to the Mughals and Adil Shahi, where the taxes for Hindus were different and taxes for Muslims were different. His taxation system was common to all, irrespective of what you are. What you produce is what you give the tax to the state. That was the important part of the taxation system which he did it. And of course, these come. Officials were the very, very important link. Now the check on officials was not Shivaji. It is very surprising. The check on officials was the common man. Because if the common man, if he is not happy, he had the power and the audience with Shivaji available freely. He used to walk up to him and say, ki, this is what has been meted out to me. And if found correct, that officials will have a very, very strict and a very punitive punishment.
So जन सुनवाई चलती थी.
Jan sunbai hoti thi. And officials were absolutely afraid that if I do not follow the orders, the report goes straight back to him. And he used to keep the interest of the local man at supreme. That was the primacy of his governance. Win-win situation. The people were happy, the officials were happy, they were doing their duty. King was happy because he was getting what was due to him as a revenue. Swaraja was developing.
I think the kind of coverage you have done on his administration is fantastic, General Ranade, and I'm sure our viewers will be would have enjoyed this, and I would request them to actually give us feedback on this podcast. Anything else they would like to know, General Ranade will answer in our next episode.
Definite.
And what are we going to cover in next episode?
These were the two things which we covered. We talked of trade, we talked of the land reforms. Two major areas which Shivaji again was, I will call it, I'll dare use the word as a pioneer, was the legal system and his organization of the army. A word about the legal system, and I will keep it hanging for the viewers to watch the next. Legal system, what we know today, we will talk about it when what Shivaji did it, and it is documented. And when he was in process of developing or forming his kingdom, one of his council ministers said, Ki, if you are going to be an independent king, that is what you are dreaming of, you've got to have a standing army. And if you have a standing army, you've got to have an organization, you got to have a discipline, you got to train them. And that stuck with Shivaji. We'll talk about it later.
Great. In fact, if you go by the history, known history of our country, the first welfare state was established by Ashoka the Great. And of the medieval period, I think there's no one to beat Shivaji. Fantastic.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, his history gets buried under the massive history of probably the Mughals and the Britishers. And he doesn't get that.
And only one side of Shivaji has been highlighted all these years and history books, his campaign, his fighting spirit and all that. Of course, we'll touch upon that also. But I wanted to start with the administration first.
Exactly,
Because it's lesser known.
That is lesser known. And you talked of his campaigns, you talked of his bravery, you talked of his, like he was a pioneer, Gudla. And also, people, the foreign people who've come there, they've labeled him as a mountain rat. Because they could never fathom as to what was he made of.
Don't reveal everything now.
So we will wait for the next episode.
Thank you so much, General Rande.
Thank you, Ravi.
And waiting for next episode with you.
Thanks a ton.
Looking forward. Thank you.